What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegges back with you on a Friday night. We have made it to the end of the work week, ready to start the weekend. It's still going to be cool this weekend in the mornings, especially on Sunday morning. We're going to get into that part a little bit later. I see there's a lot of people on the chat. I see a lot of people on the chat talking about the fire threat. So I think that's what we're going to actually start with tonight. So we're going to break all that down because we do have a decent fire threat through through the weekend. At least it's going to stay very dry, and that relative humidity is going to be on the drier side. I'm just pulling up all of my fire graphics right now so that we can show you. Of course, earlier today, the east coast of Florida, the eastern half of Florida was under a red flag warning. Now, what that means is it's for heightened fire danger. So if you see the fire weather watch, those are typically then upgraded to a red flag warning. Some people call them fire weather warnings, but the Weather Service refers to them as a red flag warning, and those will typically go into play into the afternoon. So right now, those have all been discontinued because the relative humidity is coming up. And naturally, again, the relative humidity does rise in the evening, limiting that fire threat a little bit. But of course, if it's already burning, that part doesn't really matter. So we're going to get all into that. We're going to see if there's any rain in our future. And spoiler alert, there's not a ton, but we are going to get all into this. Thanks again so much for being here tonight. Kimberly, glad to see you. Okay. I love, she mentioned the crime scene. Calling it a crime scene, extremely appropriate for what the freeze did. I totally commiserate. Lawn victim for sure. I'm glad it made you smile. Yeah, it's crazy because if you didn't cover your plants, or even if you did, they probably succumbed to the cold. I mean, it was really, really cold. And I don't know if you've seen gradually over the past couple of days them turn brown, kind of like the delayed death, if you will, of the leaves. And some of those might come back. I know I've seen them break free from the brown before, but some might not because this one was a really, really bad killing freeze. Okay, so here is the latest drought monitor. These are released every Thursday. We've been paying attention to this. The cold over the last 10 days to 2 weeks has certainly stolen the headlines a little bit. So we've been focused a lot on that part, but certainly we don't want to lose sight of this going forward. And we are going to be tracking this like crazy over the next couple of months, unfortunately, because we are way ahead of schedule. And that is not a good thing when we're talking about the drought. I think we are at the worst point now in about 14 years across parts of the state of Florida. And certainly we saw the extreme drought, that red color, show up last year. But um, the deal is we have the red more widespread, and like what? 2.5 months earlier, I believe it was the end of April, if I'm not mistaken. I was out there with the Lake County battalion chief, um, and we were talking about that. I believe it was late April, and he was walking me through some of the things. Nobody is under a red flag warning right now. Those will go from, if they're in effect, they go from late in the morning through the start of the evening. That's when the relative humidity is the lowest, and that's what they're looking at right there for the red flag warning, is the relative humidity in addition to how dry has it been, and then of course the wind. So that's your typical fire ingredient. For that, this is the relative humidity. So we may see one get reissued again tomorrow. So you might see one. That's when they hit all the phones. If you have the new 6 weather app, you might see one tonight. It is still going to be breezy tomorrow, and the relative humidity does go down. So this is what I'm talking about here. So when you're looking at fire weather, it's all about the relative humidity, the how far separated the dew point is from the temperature. That is where that's the further they're separated, the drier the air, the lower the relative humidity. So that is why we see that going in that direction for sure. Um, we certainly could. So I'm not. It's the National Weather Service is the entity responsible for issuing those warnings. We're going to be on the cusp. I would call it's fire sensitive tomorrow. It's not my call whether one gets issued, but it's certainly what I can tell you is that the ingredients are there, or at least close to being there, for a red flag warning to be issued again tomorrow and then again on Sunday, although the wind does back off a little bit more on Sunday. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So the relative humidity, again, even in the so there you go. At night, it rises because the temperature typically on a clear night, calm night, will fall to the dew point. We have saturation, relative humidity gets close to 100%. So we have that even in the wintertime, even in a dry air mass. We get the relative humidity at night to increase to 80, 90, close to 100%. There is where we are tomorrow. So interior Central Florida, that's really, really dry. I mean, you're talking desert Southwest dry when you get into the teens. So we still have relative humidity in the low to mid 20% range. That's not good. We're doing better on the coast, of course. We do have a water source nearby to help increase the moisture in the atmosphere just a little bit. And then you'll see we get the green to pop back up, although not as much there from Saturday night into Sunday. There's 3 o'clock on Sunday, a little bit better, but you still see that brown and black color indicating the very dry air that is in play Sunday afternoon. Another cold front comes through Sunday morning. That could kick up the wind again. So the point I'm trying to make is the red flag warning that was issued late last night for today, that is likely just the beginning, because the other thing that I want to show you, and this is just one model run, but it paints the picture. This is the GFS rainfall through the next 2 weeks. So this goes all the way out through the 18th. I think the 18th. I'll double check that. But here, look at where all the rain is. Now, this is a byproduct, like the La Nina pattern, it decides it wants to come in now. This is what a La Nina pattern is. It is the ridge builds over the southeast. It pumps all of the moisture back up. All the storms ride up over the ridge and then keeps us warm. So that is through, let me just double check my time frame. I should have put the date on the thing. I have to scrub all the way over. That is through the 21st of February. Now, again, that's one model. We might have some rain trying to sneak in here, of course, during like Daytona 500 weekend. It's looking like either from Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, there could be another cold front coming through, and hopefully it's not Sunday. If I have any race fans in the chat tonight, we've had some issues with the 500 over the past couple of years, so hopefully we go out without any issues there. But something we'll be watching for sure. It does not look like a ton of rain. Does not look like a ton of rain. Elizabeth, Orange County is no longer under that or the red flag warning. You only see those during the day when the fire conditions are extremely sensitive. Before we head to break, and I know there's a lot of people in the chat, I will get to the chat during break, and I'll come back with some answers for you. I'll look at that a little bit closer. This is the Keach Byram Drought Index, and we showed it for the first time in a while last night. This is what we're really going to be glued to. Okay, this is going to tell us how dry things are. The drought monitor is great, but this is taken on a daily basis. So we want to avoid the green to yellow to orange, and then certainly red colors. 500 typically enacts burn bans from counties. So we're at that point in Sumter. We're at that point in Marion. And we're at that point in Polk. We're close in Brevard, Osceola, and Putnam. That little box shows the change. So we did have some improvement. We talked yesterday that we did get the heavier rain southeast of I-4. So Osceola and Brevard, we were able to shave 15 to 20 points off the average for the county. So at least some improvement there. But all in all, not the greatest news going forward, as the next 2 weeks could be on the dry side and the very dry side, and we'll see these numbers shoot up like crazy. Alrighty, guys, I blew past my first break. Thank you for the conversation. I'm going to look at some of the comments and questions in the chat over the break, and I'll come back with some answers. So sit tight if you were in the chat and just put something in the comments. I'm going to comb through those right now, and I will see you guys in 3 minutes. All right, what's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegges back with you. I'll have to take another quick break. I blew past all my breaks. Maybe we'll just go right through it. And we will talk more. Marky D has a good question asking about did Central Florida break any records for the longest consecutive days with below average temperatures. I don't believe that is an actual stat, but it is interesting. It has been a while, and we will stay below average until probably about Tuesday. So since that's not an official one, I can't tell you. I would imagine probably not. I think 2010 was probably longer. What I have been keeping tabs of is this. Let me see if I can pull that over real quick. Let me see. I have it somewhere because I'm a nerd for all of the record keeping stuff. If I can find it. I'll try to do that over the next break. That fire in Flagler County is 100% contained. It still might be burning, but it's 100% contained. I had a question from Georgia. Benny Williams 9628 says, "Hey, are the smudge pots still used in orchards?" That I'm not sure. And he's asking, how does water sprayed in the orchards work? Cool and very dry on Skidaway Island, Georgia. Hey, thanks for tuning in from Georgia tonight. So that's a great question. The issue, what the deal is with the water on the people, the farmers spraying the orchards and things like that, is because when water freezes, it releases latent heat. So as it goes through the process of freezing, it actually warms up a little bit. So the thought process is that when it freezes, it's going to keep the plant right at or just above the freezing mark. So it's not really protecting it, so to speak, with it being encased in ice, but it does help to warm up its temperature. Now, we'll see what happens. Some of the video that I've seen, it looks like a straight up ice storm because I don't think what was taken into account was how windy it was. So whenever everything was sprayed, all the water was kind of taken in one direction and then frozen on things, and then they became way down with ice. So it's just been a disaster, and I don't think the full scope of the freeze has been calculated yet. I think that's something that we're going to come into light over the next days, weeks, and months, and things like that. So that's certainly one of the things that we are watching closely is the poor farmers that were dealing with all of this. I will show you why it has been so warm out west. Here is the jet stream pattern. So in this literally tells the story. Let me get this into the mode where I can illustrate. So what we have going on here, this is the jet stream, so about 30,000 feet above our head. What we have going on here is this big ridge of high pressure out west. Meanwhile, for us in the east, we have this gigantic dip in the jet stream. So we've had this constant supply of Arctic air, especially in the northeast and mid-Atlantic. But of course, last week, that was right on here through Florida, just spilling down literally from the North Pole over the Hudson Bay and then straight on down into the east. That is why we were so cold. The source region for our air mass was literally the Arctic. Then out west, we have this gigantic ridge of high pressure. Underneath these things, they are typically warm. We call it compressional heating. So you have sinking air underneath those chunks of high pressure. That's the one thing that helps to keep it on the drier side and warmer side, because as air sinks, it warms up and it dries out. So that is why it has been so crazy warm. This ridge has extended very far north. So it's been unseasonably warm in places like Montana. The panhandle of Florida has received more snow than Salt Lake City, Utah to date, which is actually pretty crazy. That is a wild stat. But that's why everything's been so ridiculous, and it's been locked in like this for the past almost 2 weeks. So that's been the deal. There's also been a little bit of blocking over Greenland. So we have high pressure here, we have high pressure here, and the two of those have just been pushing the cold air down and then just keeping all the flow blocked. Now, as we take, I'm going to see if I have all my timestamps straight. As we take this out into the future, um, watch it change. Watch it gesture. So then we're getting into the weekend. It's still going to be really cold. I mean, the coldest air of the season so far is going to blast into the Northeast. That is on Sunday. And then I got to take this. I got to change my timestamps on here. We'll take it out to the 17th, past Valentine's Day. If you saw my video on the Just Weather page, and by the way, if you are not subscribed to that page, you should go do that. Let me see if I can find the video. But let me get this over here. Now you're going to hear my voice because it just started playing randomly. So here's a full video on that. And if you are interested in just weather content, you can watch that video and then subscribe to that. I think I copied the wrong thing. I copied my anomaly. That is it. And I will pin, what the heck? It keeps on. Okay. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Keeps on. Well, if you want to look at the model page, there's a link to it. Let me see what's going on here. All right, I think it's finally working. No, I meant it. The coldest air of the season for the Northeast. So it's not coming here this time because this ridge is going to start to win out. But for the Northeast, it's their coldest air of the season this weekend. I don't think we're done either with the cold. I doubt it rivals what we dealt with, but towards the end of the month, it does look like we're going to have another strong push of some very cold air. So no. I don't think the coldest is to come, but I don't think we're done with maybe flirting with the freezing mark. That would be later on in February. We're going to have a nice 7 to 10 day break, I think, once we get beyond Sunday. Sunday afternoon really starts it because there's another little cold front that will take us back down into the upper 30s and lower 40s on Sunday morning. So it will be chilly on Sunday morning. Just an early heads up for that. All right. We didn't really talk any Florida weather. Well, we talked about the fire weather, but there's that other cold front. That comes on Sunday. It'll just take us down a little bit. I'll show you one map. That's going to be the high tomorrow. Everybody below normal, but it's getting better. We're going to have much more on the Central Florida forecast. Thanks a lot for the conversation tonight, guys. We kind of just blew this out and talked about the drought and the wildfire season, obviously, which we're going to keep close tabs on going forward. We've kept tabs on it all dry season long, and we're kind of getting to this point now where it's going to start to get a little critical if we don't get any good rain in here over the next few weeks, because we're just going to keep on drying things out. And we do not like that. We need some rain. Alrighty, guys. I'll see you in a few minutes. News 6, 10 o'clock, right here on News 6 Plus or on the News 6 YouTube page. And then right here at 11 o'clock also on the TV side and on News 6 Plus. I'll see you then, 11 o'clock. Be safe, guys. Stay warm. Couple of cool nights. And then the warm-up comes really starting tomorrow, really on Sunday, and then really next week. See you at 10.